This is the story about Paco and Robert learning lessons from Jesus.
I'm Paco.
I'm Robert.
This is the gospel according to us. This is the gospel according to us.
This is the gospel according
To us.
Well, Paco, he's at it again.
Who's at what, Robert?
Jesus, of course. That man is always talking in riddles.
I don't think Jesus talks in riddles. A riddle is like, what time is it when an elephant sits on a fence?
I don't know, Paco. What time is it when an elephant sits on a fence?
Time to get a new fence!
No, but seriously, Paco, Jesus is always answering questions with questions.
Ah, you mean like when the people ask him how he got to the other side of the lake, and he asks them if they're looking for him because they saw him do miracles.
Exactly. And he says things that don't make sense.
Like an elephant sitting on a fence?
No, Paco. Like claiming to be a loaf of bread. Anyone with half a brain could tell you that Jesus is a person, not a sandwich ingredient.
And that's precisely what you did tell me.
I beg your pardon?
Never mind, Robert. Let's think about this. Do you remember what Jesus was doing just before this story?
Of course I do. How could I forget him going to all the trouble of feeding the crowds with bread and fish when there was plenty of grass for everyone?
Robert, we've been through this before. Humans don't eat grass. Now, pay attention.
I am paying attention.
Okay then. You mentioned crowds. Exactly how many people were there on the hillside that day?
5,000.
5,000 men, yes. But when you take into account all the women and children too, it would have been at least twice that many.
10,000.
Great arithmetic, Robert. So, if there were 10,000 people on a hillside, do you think they all had a good view of Jesus? Remember, there were no jumbotrons in those days.
Well, no. It would only be the ones closest to him who could see what he was doing.
So, when they asked where all the bread and fish came from, they had to rely on what other people said.
And what those other people said must have been rather hard to believe. I know I'd have been a bit doubtful, but then I would have had the sense to stick to grass.
Yes, I know, Robert. But the people had full bellies. They knew they'd eaten real food. And suddenly, they're being told that Jesus made it appear out of thin air. If they'd missed seeing that for themselves, they wanted Jesus to do another miracle to prove that he could.
Not only that, I think they wanted more free bread to take home with them. Greedy pigs.
You can leave pigs out of this, Robert. But you are absolutely right. If there was a way those people could get food without having to pay for it, well, they weren't going to pass up that opportunity.
It's almost as though they were goading him. First, they told him that they would believe him if he did a miracle. Then they effectively said, if Moses could give our ancestors bread in the desert, why can't you?
Robert, you hit the nail on the head. I'm proud of you.
Oh, it's nothing, Paco. I've always been a bit of a scholar. So, it's true then. They were trying to trick Jesus into giving them what they want.
I'm afraid they were, Robert. But don't be too hard on them. Haven't you ever tried to bargain with Jesus?
Well, there was that time I told him I'd go to church every Sunday if he made Betty fall in love with me.
You're all guilty of it, my friend.
What, you want Betty to fall in love with you too?
No, that's not what I... Never mind. So, they were trying to trick Jesus. But we both know that's never going to happen. Jesus knows us too well. Not only did he know what the people wanted from him, he knew what they needed. And what they needed was the bread of life.
Which brings us right back to Jesus saying things that don't make sense.
Robert, Jesus wasn't claiming to be a loaf of bread. He was saying that he satisfies a different kind of hunger and a different kind of thirst. He knows that all human beings, all creatures, have that hunger and thirst. And he spends our lives showing us that he can feed us with everything we need to live the kind of life God wants us to live.
And it's a life that lasts forever too. I get it now. That's worth so much more than the kind of bread that might go mouldy.
It certainly is. You get wiser every day, my friend.
Oh, pshaw, it's nothing really. Come on, Paco, let me make you a sandwich.